Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for checking out the channel. Much appreciated. If you guys could subscribe, you can watch the Tobin and Leroy show weekdays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So our next show will be, of course, reacting to Game 1, which gets underway on Sunday. I told you guys after the recap of the play-in that I would make another video with my official prediction for the series. So here we go, baby. This is an interesting one as these teams are taking each other on in a playoff series for the third time in 4 seasons, and it was going to be one way or the other. It was going to be either them or the Boston Celtics with that distinction, and we all thought it was probably going to be Boston. It felt very much like it was going to be Boston, which, of course, is probably a more storied rivalry for Miami, although I would say it's been cordially competitive over the last couple of years. Not as much blood feud as there was in the Big 3 days, but this one certainly has a lot of ties and a lot of interesting stuff to go back and forth. And Milwaukee, who finishes the season atop the Eastern Conference, just a team that really, no drama amongst them that, has been put, you think about all the stuff that has been talked about every single year. And I would say Milwaukee gets a little bit of what Miami gets in that they just don't get maybe the national discussion that they probably should for being a team that pushed 60 wins. Everybody, I think just respects them, but I feel, listen, Milwaukee and Miami, we can both agree. I mean, they just don't shut up about these Celtics and Sixers. It's really annoying. Yeah, we can all agree on that. That being said, Miami comes into this one against the Bucks, and a little bit of a weird series this season when it came to Miami, as the 2 games that were down here in Miami, the Bucks lost, and that was it does have to be mentioned Giannis Antetokounmpo did not play in those games. He sat out, was resting up a knee. And the 2 other matchups, you had one in February in Milwaukee where a lot of the starters were there for Miami. They didn't have Kyle Lowry. Of course, he was dealing with a lot of injuries, but, Kyle was going through that whole thing with recovering his knee. And then on the other side of things, they were able to get out on top 123-115. And then there was that one game after the All-Star break where they were debuting Kevin Love and all that stuff. So Miami really got worked in that game. That was one of the worst losses of the season. So this one is going to be interesting for sure. I mean, Miami goes into this game, and they were mentioning this yesterday, a little bit easy breezy. I can't imagine any expert is going to pick them. I think that this is going to be one of those where, you have one of the experts pick, and everyone's going to pick Milwaukee. And I would imagine a lot of people are going to pick Milwaukee in 5. People really think that Miami's going to get curb stomped in this game. I would just say this. Look, Miami has had, Spo used the word yesterday, harrowing. It has been a very, very stressful year on them. But I do think there is an element to them that it is going to be interesting how this postseason works, because they certainly were a team that had trouble locking in this year. They certainly were a team that when... The interesting thing about Miami, if I could just, and I think every fan can agree on this, I do think that they have been pretty much slightly above average. If you want to call them average, that's fine. Not going to get into semantics about it. But what I do think that every fan can agree on, every Heat fan, if you've been watching this team this year, is when you think they have it all figured out and that they should be in a position of comfort, they will undoubtedly let you down. Whereas when you think they're dead and you think that things are done, that is when they typically surprise you. That is typically when Jimmy Butler locks in, Bam Adebayo locks in. You see what the capability is. Obviously, the frustration is they have a little bit of fat cat syndrome, which is a little unbecoming of some team that has not won a championship. One of the things that I do have to give the nod to on Milwaukee is that they have won a championship, and look at them. They're still, they got one of the best players in the league in Giannis, and of course they have a very stacked roster with Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez being a DPOY candidate, the DPOY finalist this year, and has continued to just add on to that roster. But with this situation, they still find themselves among the best in the Eastern Conference. They did not let up. They don't have they didn't have one of these seasons where we up, we're down, blah, 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 blah. Maybe they had a little bit of that last year of a hangover, but this year they really feel like they came back with a vengeance. So a lot of respect for Milwaukee. And I will say, look, I understand any Bucks fan that is hates the Heat's guts, right? crowing around for a couple of years as they were the team that figured out I mean, they really built the Giannis wall before Giannis could get through things, before Giannis got over the heat. He had to get through Miami. They just seemed to have some things figured out against him. And, he's flourished. He's an MVP 2 times over. He's a finals winner and is a finalist for another most valuable player. So, dude's a monster. Everybody knows it. And Miami is coming into this series with nobody thinking that they can win. I haven't even looked at what are the series odds. Series odds for Bucks Heat. The Bucks are minus 1,200 to win this series right now, and the Heat are 7-1. They're plus 700 to win this series. So, look, this is going to be a very interesting thing. And I will say, for me, looking at it, you got the MVP 2 times over versus Jim VP. Jimmy Butler, if the Heat are going to have a chance, they need playoff Jimmy. Some people call him a myth. Some people call it fable. I do not. I believe very much in Jimmy Butler, playoff Jimmy. He had this situation, of course, in the sweep to Milwaukee a couple years back. I don't know how much stake you want to put into any of this stuff, but in the sweep to Milwaukee a couple years back, he, of course, had the infamous phrase that Heat fans never let him forget, stupidly locked in. And we haven't heard much of that. In fact, there was a lot of respect coming from Jimmy going into this. Let's hear from some of the players in this one. Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, and, of course, Eric Spoelstra on the upcoming series.
You're talking about MVP in GA, all the shooting, how together they are. They've been together for a while. It's going to be tough. It is. Milwaukee has some great fans that are always showing up and showing out. So, like I said, we got to play damn near perfect basketball, which we're capable of. Play hard, stick together through the good, through the bad. We are one, and I think we're going to be okay. So, let this season go, let this play-in go, 0-0, and get to work.
At the end of the day, like, different kind of motivations can have a little bit of a purpose, but ultimately we have a bigger purpose that we're trying to do, and we understand who's in front of us. We have great competitors in the locker room, though, and we're grateful that we have this opportunity to line up against them. This is a pretty harrowing week, and I think our guys earned this opportunity.
I'm just happy to be, playing in the playoffs. Honestly, these last 2 games were, just to get in the playoffs. But, when you get in the playoffs, anything's possible. Anything can happen. I think we're in a situation where we can go out there and just play free and play loose like we have been all year. And, got to go down there, tie your shoes up, lace them up, and go in the hardwood.
You like the quick turnaround?
Hell no, but no choice right now.
So it's very nice that they're putting on the good front, but let's be serious about it, baby. All right, Jim VP, he's ready to come loose, baby. He's ready to have his own little revenge series against the Bucks. I mean, you got Bam Adebayo coming in here, who was the known OG Giannis stopper, and they got a big giant ostrich up there in the middle in Brook Lopez, who's got his finals candidacy right there for the award that we know that he covets the most. You need Bam Adebayo to come through with that defensive tenacity, with that rebounding like an absolute demon like he did every single game if you're going to have a shot. I really think this. If Miami has a shot in this series, they got to split the first 2. They got to go into Milwaukee, steal one of these, take home court advantage right back. And look, I think that's one of the things I would not be surprised if I saw it. That is one of the things with Miami this year that you just have to shake your head at is just when you think they are dead, when you think they are not going to do something, they will come out with an odd surprise just out of nowhere. Tyler Hero, he of course is from Milwaukee. He'll get a chance once again to have a postseason series, although it'll be much full crowd, full capacity, not that the COVID weirdness around for this one upcoming in his hometown of Milwaukee, where they all scoffed at him. They got so mad at him because he went off to Kentucky instead of going to the Wisconsin Badgers. So Tyler Hero, a lot on the line for Tyler Hero going into this postseason, man. I think that this is one of those where, it may not be fair, but his playoff success hasn't really been what you want it to be since the 2020 finals run, where he was doing the snarl and that he had the 37 points in the Eastern Conference Finals. Tyler Hero, if he could have a big-time shot in his hometown to steal one of these early on, that would be absolutely huge. They need Boy Wonder to show up. And really, I think, he has it in his hands to put to rest all these people who, Kyle Kuzma, the pundits, the fans who are saying, oh, the Heat need a bucket getter, the Heat need a go-to guy, the Heat need something from Tyler. And this is his chance. He's got an opportunity here against the Milwaukee Bucks to really light it up in a place where people are going to throw a lot of stuff at him, throw a lot of stuff at Bam. They're trying to blow up that pick and roll. They know how successful it was for Miami. And this is one of those where he's got it all in his hands for him. But you want to know something, baby? Let's just be real about it when it comes to these Milwaukee Bucks, because they don't want to hear it, okay? People call, the Heat back in those days bubble frauds, bubble run, wasn't true. People were talking about the struggle of the bubble and things like that. Look, let me tell you something. If you want to know the truth about it, if you really want to look at a finals run that was more fraudulent, I mean, what's more fraudulent? Let's be real. Everybody playing on equal footing, equal playing field, no fans, just basketball. Or having a quick turnaround season and every team that had made it to the conference finals that year sputtering out by the time they got into the playoffs because they were just physically worn down. You tell me. I would love to know. That's just throwing it out there. We don't even have to answer the question. We could just say, what would you think is a bigger factor? Back-to-back seasons being run down to the ground or playing basketball in front of HD screens? Just curious. I'm curious. All of that stuff is look at last year. Last year in the Eastern Conference Finals, the home teams won one game each. Every other one where the wins were on the road. So this whole idea that, oh man, you didn't have fans that year. Get the hell out of here. Now, there was a big factor that they did add Drew Holiday. That guy's good. But the thing that is a little unbecoming, and I will say, Bucks, it's just copycatting with that whole role player run, huh? You got Goran Dragic, you got Jay Crowder, and you got Myers Leonard. You just decided, let's just go get every Heat player that was in that gentleman sweep that year. And don't forget, Giannis, you got swept that series. Your team got gentleman swept. So it's really sweep v. sweep. If you're really talking about Jimmy versus Giannis, each one has a sweep. Each one of them has a sweep. And so I look at this, I'm like, you guys added Jay Crowder. Look, good for you. You have Jay. Love Jay Crowder. We call him the safety date. We thought that he was going to come to Miami. No bigs. You also stole Gogi. All right. And I can't stress this enough. I love this man. Okay. I welcomed him back to Miami this year wearing a Goran Dragic costume, a dragon costume. I love you, Gogi. Look, you've seen the odds. I've given you the odds. Everybody looks at Milwaukee and they say, oh, that team's the favorite. They should roll. So what I say to that, usually in a situation like this, is don't lose. Don't you lose this series where everybody thinks you're going to win. Massive favorite. Finals is in your hand. League is so-called wide open. You have a West that's going to beat up on itself. This should be all there for you, Milwaukee. And you're going to have the Miami Heat come in there? And you think everybody thinks they're dead in the water? They were ready to say 1, 2, 3 Cancun? Don't lose. And maybe I do sound a little delusional. Maybe I sound like Brandon Jennings going into the Big 3 series. Maybe I sound like Monta Ellis, who said that I am Dwayne Wade except without all the accolades. But here's the thing, baby. Here's the thing. It ain't like the series is lopsided in your favor. It's 1-1, baby. 1-1. Sweep, sweep, okay? That was a courtesy game you got the last time. It was as gentlemanly you could get. And so here we are. You sitting there with your rundown, fraudulent title that you have, and you have the Miami Heat coming in here willy-nilly, easy breezy, baby. Don't lose. Don't go and lose to a team that you have been calling frauds this entire time. Because if you were to call a team a fraud and then you lost to that fraud, what would that make you? So as I'm sitting here in Milwaukee, and I'm looking at the Greek Freak, and I'm looking at Brooke Lopez, who looks like an ostrich, and I'm looking at Jay Crowder, who wanted to be here, not there, and Goran Dragic, who wanted to be here and not there, and I'm looking at Drew Holiday and Mike Budenholzer. You guys don't even like Mike Budenholzer. Let's be real about it. Don't think I forgot about that. You guys don't even want this guy to be your coach. Let's be frank about it. You guys don't want him to be your coach. You would much rather have Eric Spoelstra. So I'm sitting here and I'm looking at mastermind. This guy, this Eric Spoelstra, he was so happy to make the playoffs. This guy can't wait. I mean, you want to talk about coming in, oh, short notice, we've had all this time to prepare. No. Here's the thing. The Heat, they barely need to prepare. They're ready for you guys. They know your whole bench. You stole your whole bench. So what's there to prepare for? I'll tell you what you need to prepare for. Upset alert. That's what you need to prepare for. Don't lose. Don't you bring in this team that was backs against the wall, that got embarrassed by the Hawks. Don't you welcome him into your building and lose. But I told you I'd give a prediction. So I will. And this is how it's going to go. Miami Heat, they'll split one of these first two, which I think they have to if they're going to win this series. They have to win one of the first two. Don't know how easy it's going to be to get the quick turnaround, but you might get a little rest versus rust thing. I don't know. But if they do, and I think they will, the Heat will win on their home floor in Game 6. Heat in 6, big time upset, 8 beating a 1. Can't wait.